Here's something my guest said today that I want you to sit with for a second. Content converts to commerce. Content converts to commerce. That's it. Not a complicated formula, not a 6-step system. Just show up, put the relevant content in front of the right people consistently, and the business follows. Simple to say, hard to actually do. Because the operative word is consistency. My guest today has been out in the market 6 days a week for 13 years. 6 days a week, every week, for 13 years. If you're a self-employed consultant who knows you need to be doing more to build your business, but you're not doing it consistently, or you're not even sure what it is that you should be doing, you need to hear this whole conversation. My name is AJ Riedel. This is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with self-employed consultants about what it really takes to build a profitable consulting practice. Today, I'm talking to Frank Clark, founder and CEO of Encore Leadership Advisors, a Chicago-based executive search firm serving Fortune 1000 companies and private equity portfolio companies across the United States. Frank spent 20 plus years in corporate America, Motorola, AT&T, A.T. Kearney, R.R. Donnelley, before walking away from a C-suite role to build his own firm from scratch 13 years ago. Today, it's a 7-figure business, and Frank has a very specific plan to take it to 9 figures by 2028. In this conversation, Frank breaks down exactly how he generates business, the LinkedIn strategy, the speaking engagements, the face-to-face relationships, and he shared something I have never heard anyone say quite this directly. The real secret to scaling a consulting business is not hiring people just like you. It's hiring for your weaknesses. This is a conversation about what daily discipline actually looks like. Let's get into it. Frank Clark, welcome to the Thriving Through podcast. I'm delighted to have you with me today.
AJ, good to be with you.
So my first question, it is called the Thriving Through podcast. What does thriving mean to you?
Provocative question, AJ. Thriving means growing, learning, excelling, consistent improvement. That's what I would categorize thriving to be.
Love it. Yep. Consistent improvement, growing. Yep. If we're not thriving, we're decaying. I mean, the opposite is that people always talk about thriving instead of surviving. But I think the opposite of thriving is really stagnation.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into finding out more about you. What was your path to becoming self-employed? Walk us through how you got here.
Sure. It has certainly been a journey. I spent the first half of my career in corporate America in a variety of different roles. Started out in a company by the name of Motorola, which used to be the Google of that time. It used to be the Meta of that time. This is in the early 90s. I started working for them right out of undergraduate. I majored in economics, got a Bachelor of Science in that, and went into Motorola as a sales executive trainee. And I trained for a number of years on all the aspects of product, value propositions, presentations, as well as understanding just the corporate framework as well of Motorola, which at that time was one of the biggest companies in the United States. So it was just extraordinary training and foundational principles on business, I learned how to read a P&L statement, a variety of different things in this training. And then I went out to the field and was successful in selling two-way radio communications and technology to trucking companies and logistics companies primarily, as well as some of the larger train companies as well. So with that said, from there, I went into telephony. So went from technology, telephony being AT&T. Went there as well as what you would call a senior sales executive. Learned telecommunications from what you call packet switching to frame relay networks to all types of Centrex technologies around landlines and long distance lines as well. And did that for a number of years and decided to go back to business school while I was doing that part time. So I received an MBA at night. And then from there went into consulting. After I received my MBA, I worked for a company by the name of A.T. Kearney, which was an EDS company at that time. EDS is now Hewlett Packard. So there I did consulting around technology, systems integration, and things of that nature. So I was involved in fulfillment of consulting engagements as well as strategy consulting, along with the selling of it as well. So during that time, I had an entrepreneurial itch, if you will, because I was familiar with folks that were in the business of publishing, of advertising, of automotive, of technology, of even financial services. So because I had that exposure, the interest was there, but I was still certainly very focused on my corporate career. You fast forward, I had two more significant corporate jobs, both in manufacturing. One was with a company by the name of R.R. Donnelley, which is based here in Chicago. My last role there was a business unit president for a business that focused on catalogs, magazines, books, and the like. And I did that for a number of years. That gave me a P&L responsibility. It certainly was sales driven and customer facing. It also gave me some deep understanding around manufacturing and how that process works, operational principles as well that I carry forward to this day. Did that for a number of years. And then my final stint in corporate America was chief strategy officer and senior vice president of a global manufacturing company of food service and equipment. I was on the board of directors. I also reported to the president and CEO of that company based in Atlanta and Tokyo, Japan. And at that moment, I was sure I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had a lot of corporate experience, a lot of the blocking and tackling around P&L management, leadership, certainly galvanizing and energizing teams, developing people, sales, and even the financial rigor of running a business. But I knew that at some point I wanted to be my own boss, if you will, and start my own. So probably about 13 years ago, I did that to start my own business and been doing it ever since. So today my company is a executive search company. It's called Encore Leadership Advisors. We're based here in Chicago. We're throughout the United States, and we focus on executive search with clients that are in the Fortune 1000, as well as private equity portfolio company clients as well, in industrial manufacturing, in financial services, in healthcare, and certainly in nonprofit and technology.
What was there a defining moment? So you were working at a very high executive level for a manufacturer of food service equipment. What was the defining moment where you decided to scratch that entrepreneurial itch and actually make the leap into self-employment?
A couple different factors. One is I saw some close friends and trusted confidants doing it and having success and having challenges as well. That was one inspiration. Two is my objective at that time was to be a Fortune 500 CEO. And I did not see that happening in the near term. And my patience was running thin. And of course, the risk reward there is high, but the probability is very, very, very low. So with that said, I said, now is the time. I'm young. I've got the experience. I've got the energy. I've got the drive. and I've certainly got the fundamental principles. So let's get it done now or never. So that was the real defining moment.
This is something I hear from when I interview somebody who came out of I mean, you worked for in a role in consulting in the corporate setting for a number of years. What I hear from people who've come out of consulting work where, they weren't self-employed, they worked for a company, is that it is a different thing when you are on your own and you are having to rainmake for clients that you didn't really have to do before. So, how was that for you when you first got started and you were having to do the marketing and sales and business development along with the functional servicing clients, all of that kind of stuff?
Hmm. Fortunately, for me, the selling piece was organic, something that I grew to love in the corporate environment and grew to really enjoy that process and that journey. So the transition to doing it for my own business was extremely seamless because of the years that I had doing it in the corporate environment. So the marketing and the selling happens to this day. In fact, one of my focuses on a day to day basis is client facing, what I call business building activities. That's branding, things like this podcast. That's certainly getting in front of clients. That is getting into the marketing, going to conferences, having keynote address opportunities where we can talk about thought leadership pieces, as well as face to face meetings over lunch, over dinners. I'm doing that literally 6+ days a week, the marketing and the selling. So I was fortunate that that's something I enjoyed in the corporate setting. And I took that skill set and love for developing business into my own consulting business.
Okay. So you mentioned some of them, but I want to kind of highlight them. So the things that you do, you mentioned speaking at conferences, attending conferences, having lunches and dinners and face-to-face meetings with potential clients. What else do you do to build on the marketing side to build your business?
Yes. Something else we do is we use social, right? Social content converts into commerce, real business
Mhm.
engagement. So we use social, specifically LinkedIn, from an advertising perspective, from thought leadership pieces, and from other content that's thought provoking and relevant to today's marketplace. It can be around employment trends, it can be around one of our people, it can be around things in the C suite or the boardroom that are germane and apropos to today's marketplace. So that's another thing that we utilize on a day to day basis, certainly week to week, when it comes to driving business and getting in front of clients and the marketplace from a macro perspective as well.
Okay. And you mentioned advertising, LinkedIn advertising.
Yes.
Obviously, it must be working for you if you continue to invest in it. What do you think that is the sort of secret to success of making LinkedIn advertising work?
Messaging. Your content needs to be relevant to a niche or certainly even a mass audience. In our case, we're focused on executives and we're focused on clients that are in the market for a finance or a transformational leader. So our advertising tends to focus in those genres, and that certainly drives traffic to our website and ultimately outreach to our firm. So that's how we utilize LinkedIn and leverage it. We don't utilize any other social to drive our business because it is not relevant because we're not a B2C business, we're a B2B business. So we certainly
Right.
wouldn't use Instagram or anything of that nature or TikTok to drive our business.
So you're not going to get up there and start doing TikTok dances.
Certainly not. And if I did, scare everybody away.
Yeah, not the right seriousness and gravitas for somebody who does, the recruiting piece for C-suite executives. Not
Precisely.
when we talked earlier, you mentioned that Encore is a seven-figure business
Mhm.
after and that your goal is nine figures by 2028, which is just 2 years from now or 3 years. That's a serious jump. So, what does the path from here to there actually look like?
So, a couple different things. We certainly want to scale the business fast, and we want to do it at a critical mass with a lot of strategy and process and systems and frameworks to support that kind of exponential growth. With that, the path is a couple things. Certainly, people. You can't scale any business to anything of material significance without the right people. So we're always hiring in the market, or at least getting a pipeline of talent to come into the business in key roles that help drive the business, whether it be business development, whether it be on the fulfillment side of the business, or whether it be on the operational side of the business. So people is a big part of our growth strategy, and having the right people in the right seats that can contribute in a material way to the growth, development, and value creation of the business. So that's a big component of our path to growth. Another component is we are forming alliances and strategic relationships in the market. So we get inorganic growth to our business as well. And another piece is certainly opportunistic, acquisitive growth, where there may be a smaller business that is ready for a liquid event and a monetization. We'll get involved in those discussions as we continue to grow as well, and tuck them into our business and integrate them into our business as we grow.
Okay, meaning that you will acquire when the perfect opportunity comes along.
Yes, that's exactly right. Acquisitive growth.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's a great term. I just wanted to clarify acquisitive growth.
Yes.
What has to change internally, systems, team approach to support the aggressive growth goals that you have?
Um, I will reframe that question, AJ. Nothing has to change per se, but we have to do things even better to have that kind of exponential growth on a consistent basis. We've got to do systems better. We have to have process better to drive the outcomes that we want. The outcomes that we want are profitable, consistent, month over month, quarter over quarter, and ultimately year over year growth. That's the outcomes that we are shooting for and what we will accomplish. So, what we have to do even more of is getting better people as well in key roles around principals and business development executives. That's a key component of our growth as well. And the last piece is market presence, branding, equity, in terms of people are familiar with Encore. They know what we do. When I say people, clients or potential clients, including candidates, know who we are, what we do, how we do it, and how well we do it as well. So the brand equity and our representation in the market is also going to accelerate our growth and get us to where we want to ultimately be.
Okay. And you said your brand is strong in Chicago
Yeah.
because you're out in the market 6 days a week. When we talked, you said one of your big challenges in that brand equity area is going to be moving into other big markets. So, how do you replicate that in New York or LA, markets where you're not going to be able to show up in person with the same frequency?
Great question. Couple things. Back to the people strategy. We do have a footprint of talent in the organization in those major markets: Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, Houston, and Dallas, Texas, and the like. So we want to expand our footprint and coverage in those particular markets for growth. And that also is going to entail not just fulfillment and operations, but also principles that drive business development and branding. And then they'll get me involved or another executive involved as we continue to grow as needed, so we can sure have that presence. And the nice thing about being in Chicago, I'm in the Midwest, so I can get to New York very quickly, DC and Texas. LA is a little longer, but I can get there in a day and come back the next day or two. So we are in a great strategic geographic location based on being in the middle of the country. So planes, trains, and automobiles are a part of my vocabulary and quite middle name.
Right. And hopefully you don't have as many problems with planes, trains, and automobiles as John Candy and oh, I'm blanking out on the
I know,
other.
I know the movie you're talking about. Though, yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah, that
fun.
it's not as miserable a trip.
Let's hope not. Let's hope.
So public speaking is, oh, so I wanted to go back to that. So when you talk about principles, so basically this may be simplistic, but you're sort of cloning yourself in these other markets.
Yes, yes. When it comes to growing the business, operationalizing the business, not so much. In fact, in those other markets, what I am doing, this is part of the secret sauce of sustainable growth, is I am hiring for my weaknesses. Okay.
Mm.
Part of the secret sauce of sustainable growth. I can have people that replicate me, and that makes sense in certain areas of the business for sure, but also things that I don't do well. I don't really care for some of the financial day to day rigor. So I have an accountant and a finance leader that focuses on those kind of things. And in some cases, in a market, when it comes to fulfillment of our work, and delivery of our work, to be more specific, I'm hiring delivery professionals that do that well, enjoy it, love it, like I love building businesses. They love fulfilling projects, the same passion that I have for building businesses and driving growth. So I'm also hiring for my weaknesses.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to now turn to public speaking because that's a strategy that you've identified as a key part of your branding strategy. How are you getting access to venues, stages, opportunities to do public speaking and to get out there?
Yes, that certainly is also something that happens by way of relationships, and it comes across my desk in a variety of different forms and fashions. Sometimes it's an invitation, sometimes it's me doing proactive outreach to speak at a particular event or be part of a panel discussion, which is certainly a fundamental area of branding, being part of
Mhm.
thought leadership panels. So that's how I get it done. What I'd like to move towards, and the objective is to have more inbound traffic and invitations for those versus outbound. Right now, our outbound is probably 80 to 70% versus inbound being the balance of those opportunities coming across my desk.
And how are you going to switch the balance? I mean, what kind of strategies can you use to build up the inbound and so you're not as dependent on the outbound?
Yes, that goes right back to that fundamental principle of branding. The more brand equity we have, the bigger our brand is in the market, in markets like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Dallas and Houston, Texas and Atlanta, Georgia. The bigger our brand is in those key markets, the more inbound traffic will come to the business. So that's what you call a push pull strategy. And
Mhm.
pushing to the market to brand, and then we'll pull opportunities into the firm as a result of that.
Okay, makes sense. You're running two companies simultaneously, Encore and Centurion.
Yes.
Plus, you've got board work.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide where your time goes? And how does that affect how you show up for business development?
Yeah. So part of being an entrepreneur and focus on scale is you need to be completely and totally obsessed and completely and totally immersed. I am both, and I'm also delusional as well. And those three attributes help me do all of these things at the highest levels on a consistent basis. I believe that if Elon Musk can do SpaceX, he can do Tesla, he can do X, I can certainly do two or three businesses that are a fraction of that size. I truly believe that. So as a result, my day to day is immersed with Encore being my first priority that has tremendous upside and scale. And it's a great service that we're providing to the marketplace, to corporate America, to privately held businesses, and to great talent and candidates that are diverse and mainstream across genders throughout the United States and different parts of the world. So it has a mission around it as well. So I'm focused on that. The Centurion business is a private equity company that I own, and we're focused on mid-market companies. And that business for now runs itself. We have two investments that run itself, and we take calls. That is an inbound business when it comes to looking at interesting companies to acquire on a, I would say, month to month, quarter to quarter basis. So that's how I delineate the two. And because I love marketing and business development, I show up like an athlete shows up for the Super Bowl, like an athlete shows up for the NBA playoffs and finals. That's my mentality. So I don't have room for a B game or C game on any day when I am live and the lights are on. So because that's my mentality, that's my absolute approach. That's how I come to the marketplace.
So tell me on like kind of a day-to-day basis, because
Yes.
you can't always be on your A game 24/7. So how do you on a say on a day, if you were coming into the Super Bowl and and you're just kind of a little feel like you're a little off your game in the morning and you know that this is the most important game of the year,
Yeah.
what do you do to get yourself into the mindset so that you can show up and give your all, give your A game?
Mhm. A couple things. One is I wake up in the morning and I have a moment of gratitude where I'm grateful for my health, my family, my business, and other small things as well. So I have a gratitude moment of meditation that gets me in the right mindset to go seize the day. The second thing I do is I work out, and I work out generally 6 to 7 days a week. And that gets the mind and the body ready for the day before the day begins, because that's something hard that I'm tackling from the very beginning of the day. And then from there, I get to work and I started with my first meetings. The other thing that I like to do on a consistent basis is get plenty of rest. That's something that many entrepreneurs take for granted because we are on the grind constantly, but you can't be on full for clients, your people that work with you, and certainly the marketplace if you are dragging and if you are fatigued. So I take rest as a priority. So I certainly get that every single day, no less than 7 hours a day. So that
Okay.
tremendously.
Okay. Yeah, when you get the rest, then you're not s- surfing the energy lags, the change in energy.
That's right.
Where do you see Encore in the next 3 to 5 years beyond the revenue number?
Sure. I see us as a national brand, um, and folks coming to our firm because it's one of the best places to work in the United States. It's one of the best cultures in the United States. And I see clients working with us in those different industries, leading clients in private equity portfolio companies, in financial services, in industrial manufacturing, in nonprofit, in healthcare, working with Encore and choosing Encore because they consider us one of the best executive search firms in the country. That's the vision for Encore and the objective, more importantly, for Encore over the next 3 year period.
Okay. And what does that mean to you personally? How is your life going to be different in 3 to 5 years if you achieve these goals?
So when I achieve those goals in the next 3 to 5 years, life will be certainly fulfilling like it is today. My responsibility to make impact will grow because when you have success of that magnitude, for me, I want to be very impactful philanthropically. I want to be very impactful socially. I want to be very impactful in the community that I'm in, which is the African American community. So my life will elevate and expand in those categories for sure.
Got it. I had another thought that followed up on that, and it just fleeted right out of my head. Oh, well. Oh, I know. For candidates
Yes.
who come to you because they are looking to change, what is the most important thing that I know this is probably a very broad question. What is the most important thing that they need to do in today's world that they probably don't know they need to do?
Hmm. Um, 2 or 3 data points. That's an insightful question. 2 to 3 data points come to mind, AJ. One is embrace and lean into technology. Today, AI is the biggest disruptor that we've seen, maybe in human history. Lean into technology to drive your career. I don't care if you're in technology or in manufacturing or in professional services. Lean into technology. Today's market is certainly AI to drive your career objectives and growth. The more you understand how to optimize that for yourself, the better off you'll be in what we call an extremely competitive landscape of talent. The other thing that I would say from a candidate perspective is know your craft well. Know your craft second to none. Know your craft like you know your social security number. So if your craft is finance, if your craft is sales, if your craft is something along the lines of marketing, know it really well. Be a strong subject matter expert. No longer can you be broad and narrow. Today, you have to be one of two things: narrow and deep, or broad and deep. Narrow and it does not work if you're shallow, right? So make sure that you bring a lot of depth to the game in your area of expertise because people like me and employers will be stress testing for that. Last thing I would say is be an excellent communicator in written form, which is becoming a lost art, and in the verbal communication. Be an excellent communicator. Be able to communicate your ideas, be able to communicate your concepts, be able to communicate your story, and certainly be able to communicate your overall strengths.
And I would think that the story might be a bit of a, is that one of the harder things for them to learn to communicate?
If they haven't done it throughout their career, yes. If they've been doing it, then they'll just get better and better. But if that's something that they haven't focused on throughout their career yet, the story piece is hard for a lot of people to get together because that's a form of selling yourself.
Right, right. Which a lot of people aren't comfortable with, even in the C-suite.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I'm now kind of we're starting to wrap up. Tell listeners exactly what you help companies do and who should reach out if they're interested in working with you.
Yes, we help companies with talent solutions for them to drive their strategic priorities and objectives. Most companies want to increase their market cap, usually double it if they're a publicly traded company. We provide the talent for them to do that in finance, in marketing, in sales, in strategy, in operations. So that's one element of our business. The other element of our business is we also work with privately held companies that could be owned by a private equity company. So they were what we call portfolio companies to help drive their growth and ultimately create value so that private equity portfolio company can have a successful exit. So that kind of activity is this. Our company, Encore Leadership Advisors, is a provider of talent solutions to the Fortune 1000 and privately held companies. That's our mantra. That is what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Fortune 1000 and then private equity held companies.
Private equity held companies and just private companies more broadly.
Okay. And the final question, how can listeners connect with you or learn more about Encore?
Our website is EncoreLeadershipAdvisors.com. Our website's very robust, talks about all of our capabilities and what we do. And you can certainly reach out to us there. And my email address is frank@EncoreLeadershipAdvisors.com.
Okay. And are there any questions I haven't asked you that you would like me to ask you before we close the podcast?
AJ, you've been fantastic. I've enjoyed this exchange for sure. And I would say you've done a thorough job. So I don't think you've missed anything. Clearly,
All
you're
right.
doing this, then you're good. So thank you.
All right. Well, it has been delightful to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you listening or watching out there, until next time, keep thriving through. Was Frank Clark, founder and CEO of Encore Leadership Advisors. And if you take nothing else from this conversation, take this. Frank is in the market 6 days a week. He shows up like the lights are always on. That is not a personality quirk. That is a business strategy. You can connect with Frank at EncoreLeadershipAdvisors.com or reach him directly at frank@EncoreLeadershipAdvisors.com. Both links are in the show notes. Before I let you go, if you're doing solid work but your income doesn't show it, I want to offer you something. It's called the Revenue Diagnosis Call. Before we meet, you'll take the free Consultant Marketing Scorecard, a 15-minute assessment that pinpoints exactly where your client attraction approach is breaking down. Then on our 60-minute call, I'll tell you whether you have a lead generation problem, a lead nurturing problem, or a conversion problem, and which one is costing you the most money right now. This isn't coaching, it's a diagnosis. If you're under 100K in annual revenue and you know that you should be at 150K or more, this call is for you. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, keep thriving through.